Hello everyone and welcome back for another episode of the Analyst Desk. Today I'll be covering round 15 of the Manufacturer Series for the 2019 FIA GTC. So the race will be held on the track Alsace Village, which is located in the French region of Alsace. It's obviously a fictional track, but they've used the inspiration from the region because Alsace has great mountains and great roads traveling through these mountains. So that makes up for a pretty unusual track in my opinion, but that can make up for some interesting races. So we'll start by analyzing the race settings as always. The race here will be done in GR4. So GR4 is said to be one of the most unbalanced class. We all know that, but in my opinion, they are doing a pretty good job because with all the different manufacturers and different choices that they've made for their cars, it's very hard to balance all the cars. So now, in my opinion, it's up to you to get the most out of your car. Obviously, on some track you will not be able to get good results, but you'll have to get very good results on the tracks that suits your car. So let's go down the settings. First, the race will be 7 laps long, so that makes up for a 14 to 15 minutes race because the track is about 2 minutes long, takes about 2 minutes to do a lap with the GR4 cars. Slipstream, as always, is on real on the Manufacturer Series. Damage on light. Tires load only racing mediums for this race, so we'll talk about it just a bit later on. Balance of performance is obviously on. Start type is rolling start. Fuel consumption is ×8, so that's the first time we've seen such a high fuel consumption in my analysis. So that means that this race will be a fuel consumption management race, and the tire wear being ×8 means that tires will also be very important in this race. So yeah, you will have to manage your fuel and your tires in this race. That means obviously that the cars that are light and powerful will have an advantage, but there are very little cars that are light and powerful. So we'll talk about it in the tier list, but some cars might have a very good advantage in this race. So yeah, for the fuel consumption, 8 × 8 is quite high for this season, and I can give you some advice on how to save some fuel. So first, you have the engine maps, which are pretty much easy to use. The higher you are in the fuel map, the lower will be your fuel consumption. But the problem with the fuel maps is that you will lose a lot of power, so it can be pretty easy to get overtaken on the straights because you changed a fuel map and you forgot to change it back when you come to a straight. Then you have the short shifting option, which was what I did in the 2018 season to save fuel because 2018 was very fuel saving focused. So yeah, you will have some different options to save fuel, but in my opinion, you can try to short shift and use sometimes a little bit a higher map, like map 3, 2, 3, but I wouldn't recommend going over 3 or 4 because you will lose too much power and so you will lose too much time. So yeah, short shifting is in my opinion the best option. But then if your car is not good in low RPMs, then you will lose also a lot of time. So you have to figure it out with your car. The only thing you can do is to train with the fuel consumption at times 8 and see how far you can go and how fast you can go with the fuel that you are allowed in this race. Then you also have the lift and coast option, but it's a very hard technique that consists in lifting off the throttle before a braking point, and doing so you will need to brake just a little later before the turn because you will have less speed coming in the corner, but it can be very hard to judge where you have to brake after lifting the throttle. So if you wanted to try it, then try it in a public lobby or in a private one if you're really not confident about you doing it behind someone. So yeah, you will need to try and train yourself to save fuel. Same with the tires, braking less than 100% for every corner, going to into the corners with a little less speed can help you save the tires. So yeah, you have to train all these things and try to get the best out of your car. Obviously, it will be way easier with some ones that, like for example, the Toyota can go pretty much flat out for all the race and still have tires at the end. But let's say a four-wheel drive car will have very big problems with the tires by going flat out in the race. So you have to train and figure out the best way for your personal car to go around the track and save tires and fuel. So then let's go for the track analysis. So first I wanted to say that for the next ones I might be trying to get some in-game images or footage, like for example me doing a lap or me going through the corners that I will give advices on. I'm not sure we can say advices. So yeah, let's focus first on the overtaking spots. The first turn of the track can be an overtaking spot, but it's quite hard because it's going uphill, so you'll get sent to the outside, so you have to be very careful, because remember that an overtaking spot means that you can pass someone without taking him out of the race, so you have to be very careful. Then the U-turn that is at the end of the first straight section can be also used as an overtaking spot. In my opinion, one of the best ones on the track is the 90 degrees right-hander that is after the little straight that you can see at the bottom of the track map, because obviously it's a heavy brake point, so you can try to outbrake someone with the slipstream that you with the slipstream that you had in the previous straight. Sorry. And then we have in the last part of the track we have another right-hander U-turn that you can use, but it's pretty hard to overtake here because the road is pretty narrow. So yeah, you can try to make a move, but I'll recommend, as always, to try it in a public lobby or in a race training session. So before going in the real FIA one, so you're not destroying someone else's race because you tried a move that will never gonna happen. So yeah, try it before and then you can build confidence around doing these moves, and then you can go in the FIA race and try to overtake someone here. Then for the green squared parts, I choose to highlight the first one in the track, which is the sorry, I'm losing my mind. So yeah, I chose to highlight the sort of carousel that is at the bottom of the track. So that corner is with a banking, so you have to go very fast in this corner, but you'll have also to be very careful at the exit of the turn, because you will be sent to the grass if you are going too fast. So I recommend trying some different lines, and even more with the tire management. You can have some lines that are very fast, but that destroys the tires, and some other lines that are a little less fast, but that can save the tires, so you can go faster in the last laps of the race. So yeah, you have to train this and find out the best way to pass these turns. And then I chose to highlight the last turn, the last couple of turns on the track, which are after a downhill section. So obviously, coming downhill, you have to brake earlier because you need a longer distance due to the car's weight. Then you will see that these corners are coming in blind, so you have to train yourself to know your braking point in the downhill section. And then you have to be very careful at the exit of the left-hander because the wall is very close and you can very easily touch it, and so losing a lot of time. So that's pretty much it for the track analysis. Now I will show you the tier list I've prepared for this race. So for this race, I think that the Toyotas and Alphas will, as always, pretty much in GR4 have a great time because they have good tire saving and fuel saving capabilities, because obviously the Toyotas and Alphas being the most lightweight cars in the class, they will be great on tires. Maybe they will struggle a bit with the fuel due to their lack of power, but in my opinion the tires will make up for it. Then in A tier I've chose to put the Renault because the high downforce one will have great time around the corners. It will obviously struggle in the straights, but it can be very good at this track, I think, with the tire management. Then in the same tier, I've chose to put Lexus and Jaguar, which are pretty much similar cars in their ways to drive, very powerful ones with a little bit of understeer in the corners. So you'll have to take the advantage in the straights and then park it on the apex, because that's the only way you will be able to beat the lightweight car. But you have to keep in mind that you need to be very careful with the tires because they will be quite worn in the front especially. So yeah, you will have to be very careful with your front tires in this race to have a good result. And then in the B tier, I'm sorry for the four-wheel drives GR4, but that's not going to be a good race for you in my opinion, because obviously four-wheel drive plus high tire wear is never a good mix. So you will need to do a very good race to get good points in this one, but that's not impossible. You are able to see each race that some of the four-wheel drives driver are getting good points. So maybe if you're in one of these manufacturers, try to reach out to the top driver in your region and ask him for advice, because he probably knows the car way better than I do, so he can give you advice on this car and how to manage the car in the race. So that can be a pretty good option for you to try to reach out to the top driver in your region for your manufacturer, and that applies to every manufacturers pretty much. You can ask the top driver for some advice, and if he's willing to help, then he'll do. So yeah. And finally, I'll talk about the Peugeot and Audi, because I'm pretty sure they will struggle with their front tires in this race, and that it will be very hard for them if they decide to do this race. So yeah, very hard race for these two different types of cars, in my opinion, but we'll see. Maybe we'll have some surprises. So that's pretty much it for this analysis of round 15. Hope you enjoyed it and hope it will help you. As always, don't hesitate to give me some advice and to ask me if you want some improvements on the videos, and if you want some specific stuff like more in-depth analysis on some parts of the track or some race settings, or even of some of the manufacturer, then feel free to ask and I'll do my best to help you the best I can. So yeah, that's it for this video. Hope you've enjoyed watching it, and I'll see you probably on Monday for the round 16 of the 2019 Manufacturer Series in the FIA GTC. See you on Monday.